Man, where do I even begin? I'm not sure if I should call this, artwork or a project, an activity, or what, but I can call it stressful. I don't know why I torture myself like this. It happens too often, but I guess I'll just call it a piece. And I started this piece to tackle the overall problem with blanketed statements, specifically those on social media. And ironically, blanketed statements cover everything and nothing simultaneously. And it is impossible to generalize an entire group of people, an idea, or anything for that matter, and sum it up into 140 characters. And to coincide with the other racially charged work that I've been doing, I chose to focus on the gender wars that are taking place within the Black community. And this is by far one of the most toxic things you can ever participate in, and I would not encourage it. 0 out of 10 would not recommend. And the whole thing with men are trash has become synonymous with the entire female experience. And I definitely understand it to consider men to be trash. I mean, I agree. A lot of them are, maybe even including myself. And that was part of the inception of this piece. And the question that I've been asking myself is, what are the women in my community trying to relate to me? Behind all that angry rhetoric is pain and a longing for change. Black women have been attacked in just about every way possible, and what hurts the most is that it's been by the hands of Black men, and I feel like that's what hurts the most. So I reached out to Black women, some that I know personally, but mostly those on social media that have commented. So I scoured through posts asking these women to participate and, granting them full anonymity. And the results that I received were startling, to say the least. And the prompts that I started with were, what's one thing you wish Black men didn't do? What's the worst thing that a Black man has ever done to you or to someone that you know? What do you think that Black men can do better? What are some of your sexual experiences with Black men? And what was your goal with your statement? Some of these experiences sounded like, scenes from horror movies, from rape and sexual assault to the utter disregard for emotion and the overall care for another person. And rape and sexual assault seems to be on the rise, and child abandonment has become a normality. And body dysmorphia causes some women to slip into lifelong depression. And all these things Black men have some contribution towards. Not solely, but we definitely added our 2 cents. But none of this is news to me. I've heard it seemingly my entire life. And, the biggest thing that I took from this was the lack of accountability, that the good men don't hold the bad men to any sort of standard. We find ourselves, becoming skeptical when rape or sexual assault charges or accusations come out. But it's like, what's more important, catching a liar, which would be a woman lying about rape and sexual assault, or catching an actual rapist? Like, what's more important? I'm not sure what sort of healing we need so that we can get back to a place of empathy and sympathy, but that has to come first. We have to be empathetic first. And if a woman is lying, then, women will handle that, because she's taking advantage of something that's been such a struggle for a vast majority of them. And overall, women can't win this battle alone. But with all of this information being shared with me, I had to see the other side. I had to know about how black men felt and how I felt. And, personally, my entire life, I haven't always been an absolute fan of black women. I can admit that, and it's taken a lot of healing to regain that admiration. So I decided to repeat this experience with black men. And again, the results were just as startling. And I started with similar questions. What is something you wish black women didn't do? What's the worst thing a black woman has done to you or someone you know, etc. What I found was that a lot of black men felt some trepidation about even answering the questions. Being against black women or criticizing them is highly looked down upon. Why? Because they have already been criticized so much. Why would you add on to that? You are supposed to be an ally right now, and you're not acting like one. And you also could be enabling the behavior that they've been so vigorously trying to end. But that's not necessarily the case that I've been finding. I think a lot of black men are looking for a place to express their trauma that they have received from black women. And most importantly, they want to do it as publicly and as ruthless, the same way that black women tend to attack them, even if the attack on black men is warranted. And oftentimes, black men get told to seek therapy, go talk to someone. And that is such a privilege and luxury. Therapy costs money, and finding someone you can trust could take a lifetime. And I do think that, relieving yourself of that sort of pressure can be healing. And especially if you don't have any of these outlets and you are trying to share your story for the betterment of our community, which, was the goal for a lot of the black women that I talked to, was that they wanted to share their story to help the community go forward, to educate other women on what's out there and what to look for. And I think that black men are trying to do that as well. And for a lot of these men, they're wondering, when is it a good time to say, the reason I hate black women is because of my mother? When is it a good time to say, I don't sympathize or empathize with black women because they don't sympathize or empathize for me until I'm 6 feet in my grave? They don't advocate for fatherhood, and advocating for fatherhood doesn't mean you're taking away from motherhood. They don't advocate for my safety, specifically when we look at hip hop. I mean, I have female friends who find it, utterly disrespectful to refer to them as bitches and hoes and the sexual violence towards them, but they don't bring up any sort of the violence that these rappers have against other black men. I mean, gun violence and the overall drug abuse towards black men is out of control these days. Too many times we've seen, young black men shot and murdered by each other. A lot of black men feel, lonely and on their own in terms of protecting themselves in the same manner that a lot of black women feel this way. And what I've taken from this dreadful experience is that there's a general lack of accountability on both genders. Women don't seem to hold other women accountable for their actions, and men don't seem to hold other men accountable for their actions. And we just sit here pointing blame at both parties when there's a lot of work that needs to be done for the both of us. And I encourage both parties to speak as loudly and as often as possible about the things that they are going through. But our number one goal has to be change. And, I'm a firm believer that if everyone is talking, no one is listening.